So it was actually a nice break because we're jumping back into it. And I just threw a metaphorical bone there in terms of the purpose of this activity. Like, let me even go even more meta. If I'm sitting in your seat right now and looking at me and I'm facilitating this session, what's really important for me to know? Why are we doing this? You know? Like, I'm asking you questions. Obviously, you're answering the questions and you're answering them to the best of your ability. And then at some point, you're like, I'm telling you, there's a gap there. And then you started guessing. And I'm talking about professional learning.
Why am I
So,
guessing instead of just asking?
exactly. So, so I was pausing after we just talked about asking questions for however long so that you can ask a question when you don't know the answer. And then we have a chance to evaluate your ability to ask questions. But if you don't ask any questions, then I have to tell you the answer. And I gave you the analogy of usually in these sessions, me singing a song and like, you know, a baby that doesn't want to eat their vegetables or whatever. I'm like, you should be grabbing the spoon. What did I mean by grabbing the spoon?
You're posing.
Did you understand what I meant when I said grabbing the spoon?
Are you like you're posing something, but I'm taking a chance because I'm trying to answer it because I'm trying to show that I understand it. But if I don't, I'm not certain. It's not coming off my tongue. Why am I not just asking?
Sure, but even if you think you get it, you did, like, you said what you knew. I told you you were right, and then you said some guesses, and I said sure, but you skipped a few steps, and then you guessed again, and you still didn't get it, and then you sat there kind of confused. Like, that's the point that you asked the question, you know?
Were those steps then like okay? Like for me, guessing, it's kind of like, is it because of this? Like it is a guess, but it's like, is it because of this?
Like, I'm saying professional learning is the focus of this, and in order to learn at this standard, like your analytical thinking skills, the skills that you use when you're helping other people, like you need to use them in terms of attaining context and then like figuring out what competencies you need to be able to master this skill and then mastering them. And I'm giving you an example of when I just did this in the room with you over the course of a couple of days. I learned more and came up with a product that, how many people do you think watch those same videos? What percentage of them do you think left with as much as I did?
I don't. It wouldn't even come close.
Yeah, exactly. Like, dare I say none? You know? Okay. So I just went from not knowing anything about professional content to like the point of me getting feedback from Zaina and Nick and them both being impressed and wanting me to show them how to do it. So what happened there? You know?
They were more. They were curious.
No, I mean, what happened, how I got from point A to point B. You have some answers, but right back to the first time we were talking about this, instead of like it makes sense for you to ask a question by presenting what you think it is, but I'm saying like I want to feel in order for you to be doing this properly, it's like you want to know what I did, why I did it, and how I did it. And if you understand that to a T about this YouTube thing, and then you ask it about something else, then you're going to see a choreography there. I have a style of learning that's faster than I've ever seen anybody because that's what I practiced being world class at. Like, do you see how often maybe it looks like I know what I'm doing more than I do, but I'm teaching myself how to do stuff and doing it. That's what's happening. That's what you've been watching. So if I'm you trying to get to co-founder, like you're, anyways, without going off, it's like this is the most important skill. And it's been like mentioned before. We've gone through the stuff we've gone through, so now you're in a position. I think you're ready to receive it, and so this is hopefully the last spoon feed. Is like the skill is deconstruction of a complex thought. That's the skill. Now investigate. Hopefully that didn't throw you off.
It's,
Like you can take a step back and just ask, like like what's your process for learning? Like I'm using this example of YouTube, but like it's just to illustrate what my approach is. you know so you said some things, you realize you're missing a few, blah blah blah, we get to the question
how did
point.
you start your approach to it?
In this particular instance,
Into the YouTube thing first.
yeah, okay, good question.
So like we made the video, you didn't think it was good.
Yeah,
So like where did you start? Like you don't have
particularly.
the skill in this, so you're like is this like I'm making like is the assumption of the start of we did something YouTube summary like using this as an example is going to be great to actually understand the process as well is we made a video, it wasn't good, and then did you feel like you didn't have the skill to kind of fix that, and so now you wanted to move move into learning, or like how did it start?
Yeah, great question. I feel like you already learned the lesson. But so it started with when we were at ILAC and I put you on the spot
When
to
we were
make
in
content.
that room?
Yeah. And that didn't go great and I wasn't expecting it to. But to me, that highlighted where both of us were at with content. Like, I have literal public speaking experience, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't think I'm bad at it, but I don't just want to be good. And I think that there are forms of content that you're naturally good at because you're an intelligent human, but neither one of us knew at that point like what the best practices for content were. Like neither of us could have defined what a hook was, could make up titles on the spot, etc. So it's kind of like when I had that experience with Nick and feedback. It's not that I think I'm bad at it, but obviously if someone's saying something, like it's worth inquiring about, then you got to ask yourself like how good do I want to be at this? Does this even matter? In the Nick instance with feedback, I was kind of arrogantly like, let me show myself that I'm as good as I think I am, and I ended up being wrong and learning something. Maybe I was as good as I thought I was, but that was not the baseline that I want. I want to be excellent. So then I deep dive in that and got excellent at it. So for the YouTube thing, it's like, okay,
So you're looking for the excellence because you're getting feedback, but it's coming from some reason, and we're trying to do the best version of it. So you want to make sure that that's not just like you want to make sure it's like, am I actually doing something wrong? It's like so, this is
yeah,
coming up for a reason.
it's not even am I doing something wrong, and it's not what am I doing right. It's how can I do this better.
Yeah.
Like everybody looks at my lack of putting content out there and is like, and Silo's right. Fear, 100%. Imposter syndrome, 100%. But look how productively I've used it. You know? Like there's one version of imposter syndrome where you doubt yourself and then you don't do it. But I've spent the last decade plus working on all of the skills, checking all of the boxes that I thought would matter. And now, okay, this YouTube content thing comes up because obviously that's tied to curriculum. So how is that curriculum gonna be world class? Well, obviously, I know enough about teaching and attention span, blah blah blah. I have the idea that I want to structure the like learning materials as social media content. Amazing insight that I could have only had if I studied the shit out of teaching. you know, Emotional learning, social learning, etc. So okay, now content a thing. So now I want to make content all the time. We do that. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get back into the habit. I'm pretty good at it. I haven't been good at doing it myself, but I'm better when someone's in the room. So we start doing it, and then I start including you because obviously I want you to build the skill as well. And like it would be selfish for me to just do it and inefficient. Like, why wouldn't we both build a skill at the same time? And then I see, obviously, because why would you be as good as me at this? You're not. And then I start testing it and we start talking about it, which makes me better at it. And then I realize that I'm not qualified to teach you how to do this at the level that I want us to do this. So what's the natural response?
So you don't think like you're like you've seen what you've been performing and you have done teaching, but in terms of this, like in terms of the skill of actually making content, taking what you learn in a way that other people can view in the, like in the content format for the modules for people to actually watch, you don't know enough about it. Like you don't know enough about it so that like to be able to actually present that this at the level that you want.
Yeah, I'm not happy with my performance and I don't feel comfortable enough with my um, competency on the topic to to coach you on it. You
Because
know?
you don't know enough.
Yeah, like I remember that session. I put you on the spot, and I put myself on the spot, and that was where are we at with this? And I wasn't able to coach you through that experience as well as I would have liked.
Which
You know,
experience?
of when we made content
Oh
at
yes.
ILAC with the random topics, and you taking that experience and saying, "Well, clearly I'm not good when there's structure." Remember that? So that experience to me is like, okay, if I felt like that about analytical thinking, then I would have deep dived into that instead of having this conversation. You know, like what makes me good at this is my proficiency at it. And like I just went through the levels of knowledge, whereas number 4 or 5, whatever, was teaching, right? So like I understand some principles of content, but I don't know enough to innovate it, you know? So what am I going to do? You're going to find out what the best practices are. Who do I want to learn from? The person that's best at it. Okay. Now I've got a bunch of their best practices and I'm learning from watching these videos, but I can do this faster. So then, chat GPT. Oh my God, GPTs. I haven't actually used GPTs. And I see there's a YouTube summarizer. Oh yeah. I'm just going to dump videos that are educational in there
See
and
what
get
it can
some
do.
insight just to learn faster. I'm trying to learn fast. This is professional learning. Not so fast that the quality's down, but like, how can I learn this the fastest? I don't want to learn just by experience. And like, that is not even remotely good enough. So, okay, best practices are established. I find this interesting tool for summarizing videos. I think, okay, well, this can turn into a textbook for me, you know, and not only can I analyze and summarize the videos that are explaining how to make good content, but I asked it for things like a deep analysis and then a psycholinguistic analysis and act as a voice coach and blah, 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 give me best practices. And I'm like, okay, I just got more out of the video than the video gave me. So now what's next?
Wait, so you went from trying to like understand the content by like trying to like looking at what the best version of this content is, and then you
Not
want
just
to
that, but by watching people explain it.
no
Yeah,
exactly you're trying to understand like how to make the best version of the content from those who make the best like
yeah,
are like
yeah,
objectively the best people that are making this content, and you want to learn this. But did you want to learn it faster so you started to try other things?
yeah. Well, like it's like first you gotta show up to school, you know. So I'm watching Mr. Beast talk about sales because I love his style of content. Or sorry, Alex Ramosi talk about sales and um, well, yeah, basically just sales. And then I started thinking, oh, like sales is pretty related to content, you know. So I'm watching sales videos from Alex literally all day, every waking moment that I'm not on the phone and while I'm working on most things. And then I start watching the best practice Mr. Beast content. And then I start YouTube analyzing the Mr. Beast stuff. Then I start YouTube analyzing and linguistically analyzing, etc., the Alex stuff to try to figure out what his actual style is, to try to capture his style. Then I started throwing topics for grow into this do this in the style of Alex thing, and I start liking what it's doing.
They're trying to like stress test it.
I'm trying to like analyze what's actually going on in Alex's content. Like I know he does his hooks on his videos all the same way, but I didn't have anybody to explain that to me. Mr. Beast told me that a hook has to be captivating and blah blah blah, but you know, what does that mean in an educational context? Well, I got that from analyzing Alex's content, not because he told me, but through this analysis. So I made I started learning the best way that I knew how, which was YouTube, and then I improved that learning process by finding the YouTube tool and then by testing the YouTube tool. And then I stopped watching best practice videos and started deconstructing Alex. And then I was running out of room on my phone and I was like, oh, I can just upload our videos to YouTube. Oh my God.
Nice.
Now I can get an analysis of us from our content. So then we start recording content, I start posting it, and we start recording our meetings. I'm like, oh, because I was talking to Beige about uh, um, recording meetings, blah blah blah. The whole content thing he wanted to do. Like this is a part of it. This is like another piece of the pie. You know. So through all of this came, okay, now I have this learning process where I can facilitate deep analysis of content I'm doing. So then I ask it, what's my style? And I kind of don't like the response. So then it gives an example of like my style in the context of um, imposter syndrome. I don't remember if it did that or if I just said this is how I'd solve it or whatever. I don't remember. But I wrote this like kind of bloggy, this is how I would answer if somebody asked me. And then I asked it to analyze
Wait,
that.
so you got it to analyze you, and you wanted to analyze your style.
Yeah, I wanted to figure out what my style was because I didn't know what it was.
So did you present a question and then answer it in your way and basically told it like, how did I do?
This. You read me talk about imposter syndrome in like a little mini blog. Remember that?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was for you to understand where you stand in terms of your style.
That was for me to understand how I approach, like, how I structure solutions, how I answer questions. Because really, what is content other than that, right? Like this type of educational content. Like, what is the hook? Like, I know what my teaching. I told you this while I was doing it. I said I know what my teaching style is, but I don't know what my content style is. So how do I figure out what my content style is? I started making that tracker. I started trying to answer a question. Then I got to analyze it, and it gave me some really good feedback. And I was like, okay, this is my style. If I mix that with the best practices from Mr. Beast and Alex Hermosi, like now I have a professional style to measure my performance against. Now, like I'm set up for professional learning. This is where this whole concept came from. But the best practices from Mr. Beast turned into an entire format, like 13-step process of review and iterate. And then I added the system that I came up with to do a couple things that we don't have the money to do, in terms of analysis and feedback and blah, 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 because he's obviously got a full team. But like now our format feels like it rivals.
Because you took his concept to make it in a way that we can use that.
Yeah, and then
in the
added
situation
the whole
we are
AI
in.
function and use the whole analysis of our content. Like, remember that whole meeting? Remember how excited I was about that? Then I made a process out of it.
So when you went from like doing the analysis, you're still like, are you still in the phase of you're trying to understand it? You're trying to understand the content, how to get better, right?
We now, like, my understanding, sorry, my competency when it comes to content is like 4 or 5x what it was 2 weeks ago. How do I know that? Because I can think about a hook in a title like that. Like another thing that I was doing in the background was that content tracker. Every time that I had an idea, like originally a couple weeks ago when I had that tracker, I was just writing a topic in and my thoughts on it, and I had a section for hook and title, but I didn't write anything because I didn't know how to do that. But now I can do the whole thing.
So when you made the framework, was that because you wanted to be an easy way, like an efficient way to learn this skill for someone else?
Not just to learn the skill, So the outcomes of all of that were like the framework brings us from idea, like concept, all the way to professional content version 2. Like that's what that framework is for. The format for our content is basically the style of the content, the emotional hook with the stats and the examples, the metaphor, blah blah blah. Like that is a combination of my style and Alex's style. That's what that format is. The format is like how what is the structure of the content? That's the format.
What is the structure of the content?
Yeah, the structure of the content, like what happens, in what order, and how does it happen. So we have a way of generating hooks, which emotionally anchoring question that's followed up with some reassurance and data to back it up. Remember
And you like, why did you make it? Like, what brought you to wanting to make it like that? Like, why did you make it?
the hook section?
No, the entire like framework of the tool.
Because I want to do this professionally. I want to build a system that's replicatable, where the quality of the content that we're doing is consistent. Like that is a innovation of Mr. Beast's best practices in terms of the format, and the Alex contribution was to the format. The framework was Mr. Beast's process. Like Mr. Beast says, "Oh, we have ideas. We write a little hook for it. We do the thumbnail, blah blah blah. We script it, record it, and then we get feedback. I get a focus group of people to record themselves when they're making the content, and then or when they're watching the content, so I can see when they're bored, blah blah blah. And then we go back, we take those considerations, and then we make another version, and then blah blah blah. So our version is it goes in the tracker. We write the title, the hook, the notes, convert it to a blog where we kind of flesh it out a little bit more, and then uh, and then we do version 1. Like we get a script made from it because it knows the format. So it takes the blog and it knows the style that I want to structure the content in. So it gives us like a rough draft of the script based off of what we gave it in the format that I already told it I want it to be in, because it's trained on that. So then we do the rough version. Then I send that video to Zaina and Nick and maybe Humble and maybe some of your friends and some of mine. I ask them to record themselves and give us an assessment. Mr. Beast didn't say that he asked for an assessment, but I added that. So then we get the feedback from them. We get the video we can see, and on top of that, we can upload our version 1 and have it assessed and stress test using the YouTube tool, which obviously Mr. Beast isn't doing. So and then we take all that feedback and we make version 2, and that's the version that we do in Toronto, and then that gets edited and posted. Like that format ensures that you, with an idea you have, can bring it all the way to completed content without me actually helping. And that's the idea, because there's a process that somebody can film, somebody can follow, without having the competency or know-how of even why they're doing what they're doing.
So you want to make it easier or to make it more efficient. You created you created the framework that way. We have an efficient way of doing this.
Yeah, we have a way of doing it, because our way of doing it before was like, oh, all right, let's talk about this right around the like it wasn't professional.
So you started with researching, which then, like, the idea of the researching is we have a problem here. The problem is we're not making content well. So I need to research what good content is.
Yeah.
And in that research is I need to make a plan through the research I'm doing. That way I can create a tool that we can follow. A system that we can follow to make sure that we're making this good content.
Yeah, a system as in a series of steps that ensure quality
and consistency.
And not just consistency, like in terms of, well, like let's dig into consistency a bit. So because I've trained it with me in that imposter syndrome blog, like that's only gonna get better the more I train it. Like when I trained the linguistic, like the tool that I made last year to make like LinkedIn posts for me or whatever, when I taught it my writing style, like I taught it by dumping every piece of writing I could find, blogs, poems, whatever. I dumped it all into this conversation and had it assess it as a psycholinguist, and then it told me what my communication style was in such detail that I could say, write on this topic as if you're me, and it wrote something that was genuinely looked like I wrote it.
And you did the like.
I did this last year. So because I had that experience with ChatGPT, I knew that I could, number one, create a style for myself, and number two, make it so easy that like without you knowing how to do this, just by you following the steps, you can make content that sounds like we made
Is this what automating is?
it. This is process. Like there's steps that have automation in it, but automation means automatic, and it's not automatic. But what we have is a system. Like we have a way of doing things, a process.
Which
That's
is
what the format
because
is.
we want to be efficient.
Yeah. So
So if I was gonna break it, like I want to understand like the actual process. Like when like there's gonna be a problem, so you're gonna research this problem, right? First you gotta understand it and get context, and then
not just context, but
like
competency.
understanding, right? Like what it like I have a problem. What is what is a good way of solving this, or how can I like
So
what am I missing here? Like I'm doing this wrong. Okay, so I'm gonna research this. I'm gonna understand it. What are the best practices? How is this done properly?
yeah.
And then the next step is like with the next step would be trying to take what you're learning of the best practice to create a way to recreate that.
So yes, so much of that is exactly right. I'm just gonna clarify a bit and use my words. Not that your words were wrong, but it's the two-sided curiosity, right? So the first side of curiosity is I need to understand, I need to know what I don't know. I need to know why, like what's missing from our content, basically.
I have a problem and I don't have a solution, so
Yeah, and I don't know enough to know
how
what the problem is. I just know I don't like it. So that's why I went to best practices first. Then step number two is okay, now I know like conceptually what we're missing, and I've studied this world class performer's process for creating content. And then I start looking at content that's more suited to us that isn't explaining how to do it. He's just doing it. But then I found a way, this whole YouTube GPT experiment, I found a way of getting a version of the best practice video from a video that wasn't trying to teach me, you know? So this is like another like a more advanced version of
wait,
learning.
you say that again. You got
So the Mr. Beast best practice stuff,
yeah.
that gave me like an academic understanding of what a hook was, what good content was. The first 10 seconds gives you the next 20 seconds, an attention span, and blah, 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 blah. This is what makes a good title, right? I learned that from someone trying to teach me in those videos.
Yeah.
And then I looked at someone whose content I actually liked, because Mr. Beast's content is entertainment and we're in education. So I needed to find someone to model after,
So somebody
who I
that's
liked,
using those best like those same best practices
in a more related way.
in a way that actually like references us.
Exact, closer at least, yeah. Like remember, he's doing sales videos. This doesn't directly apply, but it's closer, and I know that it's good because I like it.
So like your first thing is like I want to understand the concept through the best practices, and then try and understand how that applies to what we're doing.
So the best practice stuff gave me the principles, and I started to figure out what that might look like, but I didn't want to rely on my understanding of it. So then I moved on to who's doing this well and studied them doing it well. which was not just an understanding of the concepts in an academic sense. It was kind of like a case study, analyzing somebody doing this that's doing it really well. Great way to learn. Just like we're doing right now, you're doing with analytical thinking. Like you're investigating how I do it, which is better than you watching a video on analytical thinking, right? The benefit of the YouTube GPT was that instead of just the analysis, I was able to extract data from it, like because I know how to learn, because I know psychology as well as I do. I know the summary is not enough. Like I want a deep analysis of how he structures the content and give me examples that apply to grow. And as a psycholinguist who studies like the way that we use language, now I understand this nuance about his style that I was never gonna get in a video of explaining stuff, because these people making these explainer videos, even the people that are trying to teach best practices, don't know themselves that well. You know, there's no Mr. Beast video where he's saying, like he says emotional hook, but it's like, all right, what is that? You know, like the that solution ended up being what allowed me to take my understanding to another level instead of trying to figure it out myself. You know, and now I have a process for looking at a video and like pulling insights from it. Then it became about experimentation and iteration, because I get enough about this. I have the format now. I have my first version of the format and of the framework, all those steps, and like how it should look. So now it's about testing it. Okay, how are we gonna test it? We're gonna test it on ourselves. Then I'm gonna use the same analysis that I used on Alex on us. So now we have a coach, better than a coach. No content coaches have the academic competency of a psycholinguist. Like, are you kidding me? You think any of these people are thinking about that? Like, absolutely not. Maybe some, but I really doubt it. Especially nobody that's remotely competition for us, right? So then on top of that, on top of just being able to assess our performance, I want to create a style for us, which is mastery. That's stage 5 or 6 of knowledge. And we're creating our own unique style, right? Because I was just at number 4, innovating it based on that whole process, right? And so now the mastery is like, okay, if I'm gonna create my own way of doing this, I need to have a style. What is my Steph Curry for making content? How am I gonna figure that out? Well, I definitely know I have a style for teaching. I already know what that is. You know, I use romantic examples, vulnerability, emotional hook, data, blah blah blah, whatever. So then I start getting an analysis of my written work and of just my thought process trying to solve something, and then it analyzes that the same way it was analyzing the videos and gives me feedback on what my style is. And I combine my style with Alex's style, and now we have a dope style that feels world class and completely unique. Like, that's the process of professional learning.
And then you take that to hone.
Yeah, because now when we make content, like, to your point, not only am I able to impart that knowledge on you without you going on the whole journey that I did, but um, but like, so now I have the competency to teach because I did all of that, which is what ended up happening. Which is why, you know, when I was asking you about the hook and blah blah blah, and you didn't know, and then we did that session, and then ever since then you've been phenomenally better um, at being able to generate a hook or a title for content. Like, you understand it better, right? And to go all the way back to why this started was I felt unprepared to do that for you when I put us both on the spot making content. Like, you see the full circle of it. Now I feel competent enough to teach you, and I have a whole system for teaching both of us. And that's basically where we're at right now. Like, I stopped trying to make that and use it because I needed to do the thoughts and observations one. But I'm already so far with that I'm gonna say I don't need it. Obviously, it's gonna be super helpful, and I'm gonna do it. And we're gonna use it, but like, think of the growth. You know,
The application.
yeah, like our performance making content is drastically different because our knowledge base, our competency is higher.
Our understanding of it.
Yeah, like you didn't even know what a hook was, and now you can make one.
And
That's
like a title or
that's pretty good, you know. And because I went on the journey I did, obviously I can do it a little better. But we're both. You had way more growth than I did on this. Like I found structure, but like like your competency build from where you were, it's kind of like a dead battery charging, is what I'm trying to say.
how? Why would you say mine was more than yours though?
Because I got noticeably better, but like you went from like not good to like pretty good, and I went from pretty good to like semi-professional. But like my jump was like one, you know. Like I don't know. I just kind of made up that gap, but I'm just saying like it's impressive to me that your communication style was able to change, making content or not, and the quality of you making content was able to change. Like it just looks like way more growth. Like it's easier for you to grow because you didn't have as high of a baseline. But I'm saying it to celebrate the growth. But the whole point of that is like if we compare that to the build a friend workshop where you were working, where you like just went through the process. Like if you compare your process with that to my, I'm not saying you should have went to that degree, obviously, but like, can you feel the difference in
100%.
professionalism to my approach to learning to what yours was there? Like that's what I'm getting at. And then because the professional learning is mastered, like professional performance is the logical next step. It's only a matter of time until our content is better than most people out there making content because the way that we learn, like bro, Nick has been doing this for more than a decade. He does this professionally and asks for me to teach him about how to use this tool so he can use it. Like if that's the equivalent of me talking shit about therapists and then people telling me I'm better than the therapist that they've seen. Like, why? You know? It's not because I had those conversations.
It's because your ability to learn,
Exactly.
adapt, right? Like there's a
Exactly.
problem face, and
Yeah.
it makes you unstoppable. Like you can learn anything
Exactly. And that's why that guy we talked to tonight was so impressive.
because you did the same thing.
Exactly. Which is why he saw that. Like, think about what he saw. Not that impressive. Two guys, oh, you got a wait list of 100, whatever, you're looking to do it this way. Oh, you have a real opportunity. And oh, you built the da 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 da. Well, unsolicited advice, I would do it this way. By the way, do you have any partner setup, contract, blah, blah, blah? Because international students are my focus too. This is a part of a bigger conversation. Let me get your LinkedIn. Like, and then the other comment that stood out maybe the most is, I'm just like you. Him looking me in the eyes and saying, I think just like you. This is my approach, da 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 da. You know? Why did I get excited about him? Because I I don't see professional learning. I don't. I don't. It's the biggest thing stopping Sohail. It's the biggest thing stopping you. You know? Like, it's not a skill people practice. Period. Which is why it's in this curriculum. Like imagine you're coming out of school, you got no work experience, and we teach you how to learn right at the beginning.
You have nothing that can stop you.
Why do you think it's called the growth MBA? You know, like yeah, yeah. But like the way that I can construct the learning process is because I'm deconstructing the complex thing that is learning in the most efficient and creative way that I can.
Creative.
Yeah, like the use of that YouTube GPT and then making a whole framework, uploading our content and then getting analysis. Like, I would love to know how many people on earth are doing that. You know? Like, I feel like you're either rich and you're paying for some version of it to get done, or you're not competent and you would never think of that idea. Like, how many people are in the middle where we are? You know, like, I don't know. I'm not saying that to be arrogant, but I am saying, like, it's about how you approach learning, you know? Like, so the questions I'm asking, okay, where can I learn the best, the fastest? How can I push this? Blah blah blah. The stress testing of the tools. What are the best tools? That's why I rediscovered ChatGPT. I haven't used ChatGPT nearly as much as I did towards the end of last year and when I was in BC and stuff. Like when I built the base of Jack AI and stuff. Like I haven't really been using it.
It's because you didn't know what it could do, or
No, it's because I was I don't know, my head was in other places, basically. It's not that I wasn't using it, but I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it. But I, yeah, I don't know. I was in creation mode, making the journal and blah blah blah. So I was only using it as a tool to help me build tools. I was in product mode, but now I'm not in product mode.